So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have Delphine Musso, who is VP Markets at Zalando. Hi, Delphine. How are you doing?
Yeah, hi. Very good.
So, Delphine, for the benefit of our listeners and readers, can you tell us a little bit about you and a bit about the work that you do?
Yeah, so I'm based in Berlin here at Zalando, but actually I'm a French citizen traveling across Europe. So I've been working 8 years in Amsterdam and several years in Germany. So I feel a bit of a European citizen. And actually here I'm managing the 15 countries where we're operating. So we've got a matrix organization and basically we've got functions who have a very good interest for what we do in the countries. But to make sure this interest is really leveraged in the strategy, all the people who are dealing with one country are all sitting together, led by a country cluster head. And I'm basically heading this group of people who are trying to serve our customer in all our European countries in the best way possible.
Fantastic. So the reason why we got introduced, first of all, big shout out to Mr. Minter Dial across I don't know whether he's in Paris or London or whatever, the guy's all over the place, but big shout out to Minter who introduced me to Delphine. And the reason why he did that is because I was saying that I'm really interested in service and experience and things, and there's a lot of stuff comes out of the States, like as we were talking about earlier, and it feels sometimes a bit like there's like this one big wave, sort of English language or North American domination or UK sort of domination around this is the way to do good service and experience. And given Zalando is pan-European and you operate across all sorts of different languages and different countries and things, and we know that they're not all the same, I just wanted to get your idea, your experience on what does service kind of mean for Zalando, and does that differ across different countries?
Yeah, totally. So I think in America, definitely there is a trend in improving the service to push people to go to online, and the penetration is already high. So there is a lot of things working on same-day delivery, very, very fast delivery, easy return, etc. But it's true that in Europe, we're not at this stage yet, though we have a lot of things to do at local level. So whether it's around assortment, whether it's about payment methods, we can dig in further details, but we need to really find out exactly what are the concerns of our local customers and answer those needs that the customer have, and they're very, very different per country.
So, in your experience, does that mean that so different people in different countries across Europe have a different sort of set of preferences of what good service kind of means? And if so, can you give me some examples?
Yeah, so I think first we need to answer their preferred whatever it is. So for instance, in the northern countries, Nordics, people will always get delivered in a pickup point. So for instance, when we did our first advertising, we had a mailman coming, but it didn't work out because for someone in Sweden, being delivered by a postman doesn't make sense. You usually go to a pickup point. So if you don't have a good pickup point service, then of course you're not going to answer the need of the customer. If you're thinking about payment, for instance, in Italy, 29% of the people do not have a bank account. So how are they going to pay by credit card or by bank transfer? They don't have a bank account.
29%? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, of course, you need to find a solution that's basically catering for those needs. And this is why we offer cash on delivery in Italy, which made a huge difference in our conversion rates. So it seems like a bit basic, but of course, all Americans have a credit card, but it's not the case in Europe everywhere.
That's fascinating. And do you keep a running sort of like record of all the different differences across different markets and where you are, and trying to, I guess, almost like eliminating all those little hurdles and sort of optimizing all the service in different kind of markets? Because if you're doing that, that's like a fascinating sort of record of how Europe's developing, I guess.
It's indeed very complex. What we do is basically we audit whatever is necessary for each country, but then afterwards we try to really understand the need of the customer in deeper details. So we do a lot of focus group, listen to our customers and understand the underlying maybe concerns or feelings. So for instance, in Italy, people naturally do not like to return things, but we know for fashion you need to try it on. So if you don't take the risk to try on and that is not fitting, you're not going to buy. So we realized during our focus groups that people were very guilty. Like when they buy, they consider that they had an agreement with the company. And if they return, they break the agreement.
Okay.
And we had to tell them, no, it's okay to return. And we did an educational TV spot to show the people that it's actually okay to return your product.
Right.
So it can go in things like this where we need to explore what is the emotion or the need behind the customer. And then once the basic elements are in place, you need to listen even more to the customer. So for instance, we have a comment box in our checkout where people can put information. And this is something that here in my team, we're looking at a regular base to see what are the little elements that people are not comfortable with.
Right.
For instance, in France, people don't like that you store your credit card number because they still have this kind of anxiety towards data security. And they feel that if you're storing the credit card, it's not really safe. I mean, it's 100% safe, we know it, but still, it's maybe not comfortable. So we need to really look at each detail of the customer experience and try to improve incrementally on each of these little elements, which are very, very local.
So organizationally, if you've got 15 different kind of countries, I mean, does that mean that you figure out what our shared resources and shared sort of infrastructure across the different 15 countries, and then operate 15 countries as 15 different businesses, or do you kind of try and cluster them together? Because that feels like it's going to go, blimey, really complicated really quickly.
Yeah, it gets complicated very quickly. So the way we basically group countries and set our priorities is looking at basically the maturity of those markets and basically our ability to retain customer in those markets.
Okay.
So there are some markets where there is limited competition, and we have been there for a long time. So we have already quite a good success. So we can basically push further our investment in marketing and basically explore further with the customer because they already know us and are comfortable with us. And in those countries where we have a good retention rate and on top the market is well developed because people are comfortable with, for instance, mobile and mobile payment and things like this, then we can move even further. So we basically tend to group countries. For instance, Italy and Spain have got the same kind of behavior. They're very affine on internet, but more on social media. They're not so affine yet in e-commerce. So we need to educate people into buying online. And then we tend to have the same kind of communication for those countries where, for instance, Germany, Austria, Switzerland have got the same kind of patterns. So they will prefer to pay on invoice. They will have the more stronger return rate because they're used to mail order. So they're more comfortable with the concept of e-commerce. And we will have basically a different pattern in those countries.
Wow. Okay. And does, I know there's also this big discussion round now, whether, I don't know kind of where we are on the discussion now, but it's about, it started with multi-channel, and then it's gone to omni-channel, and now I even kind of heard somebody talking about opti-channel. I don't know if you've heard of opti-channel yet. I can't keep up myself, actually. So have you seen there different sort of channel preferences when it comes to sort of buying and also service across different countries? I mean, is that and how has that impacted the configuration of your customer care strategy, I guess?
So in terms of the way people buy, definitely there is a predominance of or big growth of mobile.
Right.
Currently, across all our countries, 60% of our traffic is done on mobile.
Okay.
So indeed, we need to interact with the customer where he or she is, and mobile is a strong game changer.
Yeah.
So it means that, of course, we need to have a very interesting mobile experience, and this is why we've drastically changed and improved our app. So now on or apply, depending on countries how you call it, but definitely the app is using all the enablers, the way you can play across to basically go from one product to another in a very smooth way.
Yeah.
So we're making the app experience really interesting and easy to navigate, and we see people spending more time on the app because of that, because it's really an easy flow. But we also need to cater for the dialogue happening online. So of course, on mobile, people tend to use more social media. So we tend also to basically address a conversation where it's happening. So if customer wants to interact with us on Facebook, then we'll talk to them on Facebook or Twitter, or wherever they are.
Okay. And there's another thing you mentioned, kind of apps and sort of the mobile experience, and there's another phenomenon that that seems to be rising up where people are downloading apps to do something and then deleting apps as well because it takes up space on their phone, and the space and the storage can be a very precious thing in many cases. Have you found that have you found that as a problem, or is it just a thing that's happening to other people and you're actually finding that your app is actually quite sticky?
I think there is many patterns. I mean, some people delete the app from the front of their phone, but they still have it, in the phone. Really many behaviors. What we see is that people who've got the app, they interact more with us and they are more loyal to us. So we engage in a conversation much deeper with them.
Okay.
So we are willing to increase the investment we're doing in the app and make the experience even more fun.
Yeah.
And we're, for instance, developing specific content for the app. So for instance, if you go today on our app, you will have inspiration, whether brand or theme based, where you can explore small stories, to create these kind of entertaining moments that people want to have when they interact on mobile. Because usually you're in transportation or you're in your bed or in your sofa and you just want to have a quick interaction and your quick dose of fashion. And this we can do in the app in a very fun and interactive way.
Okay. And also the thing about the different sort of channels again is it seems to me that because there's on the front of of your website, there was like 3 promises, I guess, the 3 standout things. One is your phone number, 2, free delivery and returns policy, and your 100-day return policy. And I was looking at that as going, well, and top left is your phone number. And I'm thinking that's going to give some firms indigestion, because there's a lot of firms that are trying to move people away from the phones into what they call lower cost to serve channels, as it were. But you're going, our phone's up front and top left, it's the first thing that you see. And is that a thing that you've chosen to do because you know that phone service is really important? Or what's the strategy around moving people to lower cost to serve channels? Or is it that you've just gone, actually, we don't really care, it's all about the service and we'll do whatever we need to do to please the customer?
So it's definitely more around we do whatever it takes to serve the customer.
Right.
But the little thing is that it's actually different per country. So in some countries we put it more prominent, and it's the case in the UK where we're less known and that people need to have this extra element of trust.
Right.
But we don't hide our telephone number, not at all.
Right.
What we do is we've improved a lot our self-service so people can find information in an easier way, and we've increased also our first contact rate resolution, and we see basically that even though we are increasing our sales drastically from a year to another, we're not increasing our contact. So our contact rate is actually decreasing because we're improving our service. So it's pretty clear, when you deliver faster and you deliver on promise, you've got less people contacting you. When you're making the return process with a label in parcel, where before we had to register online, then you're decreasing your contact rate. So each time you're actually serving a problem of the customer, you're decreasing your contact rate. And of course, we have good contacts. When people want to have support in making their decision, we'd rather interact with them.
Yeah.
When they're not comfortable with paying online, we'd rather interact with them. But when they place the order, everything should run as smooth as possible.
I think that's one of the kind of things, and I think it's possibly a sort of a human nature thing, where if you tell somebody that you can't do it or you make it hard for them to do, they sort of want to do it even more. So you have companies that are hiding their phone number, and then people just go, so why can't I want to phone them? And it's almost, it becomes a bigger thing than even if you had the phone number there, they might not call you because they can find the answer that they need on your website. I think there was a piece of research that was done by, I think it was the CEB years ago, that said 60% of calls into a contact center are as a result of people not being able to find the answers that they need on your website. And so I guess, like you say, is like if you're solving those kind of problems and making it easy for them, but actually not eliminating kind of options, so people feel like they're in control and they have options, as it were, then they're less likely to object when they or react negatively if when they need to get in touch with you. So I think it's interesting that you've gone, yes, let's make the online experience and the self-service much better, but you're not trying to obscure the phone number because it's not about taking away choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And especially with the young generation, anyway, they're going to put a message on Facebook, on your page. So if you hide anything, then the worst case is that it's going to burst in public, and you don't necessarily want to have this kind of experience shared in public. Sure. So you'd rather address the concern wherever it appears and deal with it. Yeah. There's no choice.
Exactly. Going back to the 3 things on particularly the UK site. So there's your phone number, the free delivery and returns policy, but then the 100-day return policy. And I was thinking, blimey, that's generous. And I just wondered what was the rationale behind giving people, more than 3 months to return something?
So definitely the idea is to create that trust. We
So it's
have
like,
limited number of people.
so trust through generosity.
Yes, that people feel like it's a relationship that you're going to feel comfortable with.
Okay.
They don't know us at the beginning, and they need to basically have good terms and conditions to feel comfortable trying out our service.
Right.
We have limited number of people who abuse that generous offer. So if they really change their mind, it's actually a limited number of people who really need a long time to decide whether they want to buy something or not. But it creates that extreme proposition. The same way we did free shipping, free returns as a way to transfer the changing room from to put it into your home.
Right.
We have to go to a level that people feel really comfortable to go from offline to online shopping, and this is an element that's helping definitely.
Okay. Do you have any horror stories about how people have tried to abuse the 100 days return policy? I mean, like somebody's worn the shoes for like 2 months and then taken them to the shoe repairs and had them resold and then returned them and things.
No, we don't. Well, I mean, the only fun stories is we have people, packing their stuff for return and not really paying attention. So we had, for instance, a hamster in a return box. So that's quite of a funny thing, but it's not really into abusing the 100 days return. It's more people not paying attention to what they put in the box.
They've sent stuff back that they're not meant to
send back. It just shows that it's easy to return. You try things on, you close the box, put it back, but you should still consider what you put in the box.
Maybe you should put a little note in your returns kind of policy where the documentation says that please don't send back your hamster. So that's all really interesting and tells me a little bit about some of the challenges that you're facing in terms of the differences that exist between the countries around preferences and maturity and all those different things. But I guess, I mean, you're keeping up with all those complexities, and it feels a bit like it's like a music graphic equalizer across Europe and things where people are at. But I guess as a business, I mean, where do you think are some of the next big challenges for you in terms of this ever-evolving experience and sort of service kind of landscape? What are the big things that are on your horizon? You think that's, particularly from a consumer preference and behavior perspective, you're like, that's something that we see coming and that's something we need to crack.
Yeah. So we're looking at different aspects. So the first aspect is the assortment. We want to cater for every need. We want to be your fashion companion in every occasion.
Right.
So for this, we need to have really a very wide assortment. So if you're going to a wedding, you need to have the right dress. If you're going to work, if you want to have something expensive or, high street, high fashion, we need to cater for all needs. So we're expanding our assortment, but at the same time, we need to be careful to make the assortment navigable. And for this, we need to have a strong personalization. So this is really the area where we're working, is trying to help you find out what is the right fashion for you. So that's one key level in terms of personalization and localization, because also we need to have the local right brand, and of course the style is going to be different per country. Then definitely this frictionless experience. So making sure that delivery is as fast as you need it. So maybe you want to pay extra to have it same day, maybe you want to pay extra to have it next day, or you want to have the 1 to 2 days and wait a bit longer. It's in terms of return. So we've already had experiences in some countries that we want to make the return experience, especially in big cities, as easy as possible. So I try it on at the office, I want to return, I go to the app, I click, someone comes and collect it. It should be really an easy experience. So in this area of returns, we really want to really improve the experience.
Okay.
We think that with the app, we should also improve the refund process. So as soon as you've returned, we know you've returned it, we should be able also to refund. And we've already increased or reduced the delay in terms of refund time.
Okay.
And then the customer care experience, as we were saying, interacting wherever you are, how you want to interact with us, trying to break also that barrier. So that's around the frictionless experience. And of course, the last piece is really around the dialogue we want to create around inspiration and content. So we've made big progress. As I was saying, in the app, you've got specific native content that's really easy to navigate and interact with, but we need to go even stronger in that direction to make a difference. And this is also very local content.
And would that be that it's not just about other people's brands, and you're not just a reseller of other people's kind of brands, but it's also about developing Zalando sort of own brand sort of clothes, and so therefore you can tell a story and then generate the narrative around that?
So we've got our own brand, but it is indeed around having a point of view around fashion,
Yeah.
and a point of view that's basically suitable for the kind of fashion you like. So the same way when you come to Spotify and you don't know what kind of music you're going to listen to, you got several ways of getting inspired.
Yeah.
We want to have the same kind of approach to fashion. So when you think fashion, you come to Zalando, and whether you know that you want to buy a dark denim jean or whether you've got no idea what you want as a new piece for your spring wardrobe, then you will have basically different ways of interacting with us and find something that's super exciting, that piece you're going to love and wear forever for the next 5 years, because it's really the thing that's fitting you, your style, and make you feel really confident and strong, and that makes you really you.
Yay. And the thing on the personalization, I think just a question to clarify that, does that mean that the thing around, I think there's a big struggle with kind of personalization, because we talked about sort of data and privacy and all of those different sort of things. Is when you talk about that, are you talking about almost keeping people's almost details of kind of what they've bought in the past and thinking about matching things and sizes and things, or does it also extend to, we could try and do something in app where you can use a camera and look at how, figure out body shape and look at how what might match and all those different
So it's
things.
more around what do you see? I mean, it's not shocking for anyone that my Facebook is not looking like your Facebook.
Sure.
Because it's tailored to you.
Yeah.
And somehow your taste in looking at content on Facebook is as different as the way you dress.
Sure.
So we're dressing in a different way, so we should see different content. And this is what we want to achieve, is that everyone has got a different Zalando experience, and which is really tailored to their needs. So it's, of course, starting with your size and your body shape.
Yeah.
Then it's also looking at your price level. Not everybody's got the same wallet and willing to spend on fashion. And then it goes tremendously on your style. If you're more of a classic, or if you're more about a fashion, if you're more sporty, if you're more class, you need to basically address the different style that people have and inspire them with what is going to, please them. The same way as when you were in a shopping street, you will not enter every shop. Well, we need also to create this kind of selection that's really relevant for you. And this is what we call in our, internally, this personalization.
Absolutely. I mean, and then it makes it all very sticky, right? And so it just improves the relationship that you have, and also the personal sort of experience that each kind of shopper has with Zalando.
And it works for products, but it also works for content. So maybe you will see a different set of products, but you will see also a different set of stories. So maybe the 10 best sunglasses is not going to be the same for you than for me. Maybe you're going to see the 10 best sunglasses and I'll get a jeans fit guide. It's also the content stories, the snippets and entertaining sticky moments that needs to be different for you and for me.
Perfect. So just conscious of time, Delphine, is there anything that you think that we've missed in terms of this sort of area? I mean, it's vast. I mean, you're operating across 15 countries. We could go into each country kind of one by one and talk about each of them, but this is more of a scratch the surface. But is there anything that you think that we've missed that you'd like to sort of just mention or talk about, that when we're talking about sort of cross-cultural, multilingual, transnational customer experience and service that we've missed?
There is, of course, multiple layers,
Sure.
whether it's currency, there is a lot of elements that we can talk about, definitely. I think what is interesting is that looking at local needs is going to really help you improve your conversion rate and most importantly, your retention rate.
Yeah.
So a lot of new startups are looking mostly at your acquisition cost and making sure that they find customers at a cheap cost. But actually what is going to stick in the end is if people are happy with the service and they're coming back. And this is where basically we've investing most of our effort right now, is really making sure that customers have got such a good experience that they're willing to come back. And having this local twist is having a big impact on retention rate.
That's music to my ears. Kind of looking after your customers, not just kind of once, but for all time, which is great. So that leads me to my final question, Delphine, and which I always ask at the end of these interviews, and that question is this: is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
Yes, in Berlin is really, really nice place. And on top of that, you can find really, really interesting jobs at Zalando. So if you've got any talent around fashion, around tech, or around commercial retail, please go on jobs.zalando.de and I'm sure we'll find something for you.
Perfect. Delphine, thank you for your time today. That's been Great. I'll make sure I get this all linked up, and we'll give you guys a big shout out. And hopefully we can. Well, I've heard good things about Berlin, and some friends of mine went to a wedding there last weekend, and they said it was amazing. And so everybody should go to Berlin. Hooray!
Yeah, come in the summer. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you for your time today. That's been awesome.
Okay, thank you so much.